it's Marley from the Energy Boutique with your energy forecast for Sunday, October 31st to Saturday, November 6th. So last week we had a little bit of an adjustment period. Got a little bit dark, got all kinds of confusing. Of course, these have been common themes that we've been dealing with, and entering into Scorpio season was definitely a shift that many of us had a hard time adapting to. Of course, Scorpio season is very intense, very extreme. It highlights the shadow parts of ourselves, of the collective, in order for a deep healing, a deep transformation to actually take place. Many of us felt that intensity as, of course, we built towards that last quarter moon in Leo that, of course, highlighted for us where we had to let go, where we have to surrender. And of course, those are very common themes to Scorpio season as well. We have Mars currently listening to this particular forecast live Friday evening. We have Mars reaching its crisis degree in Libra, preparing to take his throne, his place of power in Scorpio energy. That's going to take place tomorrow, and we're currently feeling the squeeze right now. We cannot talk about last week without talking about the solar storms that we've been having, the solar winds, the solar flares. And I tell you, if you've been watching the space weather report, you'll know that all of this solar activity, all of this electromagnetic frequency is on its way to Earth and will absolutely be felt Saturday evening into Sunday. What do we have going on this weekend, people? Well, it's Halloween. It's Samhain or Samhain, if that's the way you like to pronounce it. And basically, this is when the veil is at its thinnest between dimensions. This is when our ancestors visit us, when people who have passed over into spirit are able to communicate with us. This is exactly why the energies have been so intense, and they will continue to build in intensity over the next couple of days. So this week, yes, of course, we have Halloween. We have the Day of the Dead. We also are entering into November, which provides us with a brand new chapter, a brand new life lesson, brand new energies. We are going to dive into November on the 1st with a 111 portal. We're also going to have the 1111 portal later on in the month. And this week, we have even more energies that are really going to rock us. So, Mercury comes out of his shadow period, will be at his fullest speed on the 2nd. We are building towards the new moon in Scorpio this week, which is going to be an absolute banger for breakthroughs, probably breakdowns, in order for us to actually see where the greatest transformation is needed in our lives, mind, body, and soul, and then in our physical realms. As if that wasn't enough energy, as if that wasn't going to rock us enough, we have Venus moving out of Sagittarian energy, moving into Capricorn, which is going to be a total shift. And spoiler alert, Venus, not only being in Capricorn for the majority of this month, is going to prepare to go retrograde. That's right, Venus is going retrograde. It happens every 18 months. That is going to come later on in December. But basically, Venus is going to be in Capricorn until the new year. And any time that any planet is in a sign for that long, it means that we have a major lesson to learn. Especially through a retrograde, we have to rewind to when Venus was retrograde back in 2020. She was retrograde in Gemini. Absolutely rocked relationships, absolutely rocked our inner worlds, created a huge divide between our heart and our head, and a lot of topics and themes are going to come up for review. So, not only is Venus going to move out of that fiery, truth-inspired, excitable energy of Sag and really ground out, really get focused on, new values, new worth, new business, new structures, new systems in Capricorn, but only hours later, Mercury moves out of Libra and dives into the dark depths of Scorpio as well. So we know that when there is a long list of astro events, what can we expect? Some choppy, energetic waters. Have we gone through enough thus far? Absolutely. Does that mean we're going to get a break? Absolutely not. Again, Scorpio season is divinely scripted for unification of our shadow part, of our light part, of the good and the bad, of the pain and the power. This is the ultimate transformation. This is karmic transformation. This is lineage transformation. This is an all kinds of downright purge. And with that comes some very, very intense ascension symptoms. So before I jump into the ascension symptoms, I have to do a little bit of homework. I want to thank you. And I know y'all keep saying, oh, no need to thank us. We should be thanking you. No, this is an energy exchange, which means that it has to be fair. It has to be balanced. I need to thank you from the very top of my very full heart. I need to thank you for the love and support that you all have come forth with from last week's episode. As you may remember, I kind of went on this little rant about all the people that were coming at me about my ads. Not only did you all step up and give me your love and support, you decided to show me that love through a monetary exchange, which I actually feel horrible about. So many of you stepped up and just contributed in a monetary sense that just absolutely blew me away. And you know what? As if I wasn't grateful for that financial boost, as if I wasn't grateful for the love, support, and encouragement, y'all sent messages to say, turn the ads back on. My goodness, people, you guys are amazing. I want to thank you so much for every ounce of love and support in every single way that you've given it. The list is literally too long for me to give individual shout outs for everyone who reached out to me and showed their love in many different ways. The list is too long, so long, but please know 100% that I am so very grateful for each and every single one of you for sharing your time, your energy, the money that you've sent me, which again, absolutely overwhelmed me, especially with the notes attached saying, you know what, here's a couple bucks, turn the freaking ads back on. So I did exactly that. Y'all have overwhelmed me so much that I turned the ads back on. The ads are going to stay. I want to thank you so much again for your kind words, for your love, for your support. Also, November is coming up. I have a lot of information to drop coming on the 1st, again, for all the energies that we have to be prepared for as we move through November. It is going to be quite a month, and I know I say that every single month, but each month is divinely scripted to help us through this process, to help us grow, to help us expand. And, you know, heads up, we have 2 different portals, technically 3 if you consider Samhain or Samhain. I say that because I say it as it's spelt, Samhain. But a lot of people who have been practicing, you know, honoring our ancestors on Hallows Eve for as long as we've been doing it, they definitely reached out and gave me that correction on how to pronounce it correctly. And you know what? I'm all for education. I'm all for knowledge. I don't know that my brain is going to compute and say it that easily. So however you choose to say it, however you choose to honor yourself, your ancestors, and the magic at be around this particular time of year, just do it. It comes from your heart. Doesn't have to be technical, just has to be an act of love in order to honor those that came before us. So with that being said, we have a lot of energies to deal with. Last week, some of the major ascension symptoms were definitely the swelling, definitely the puffiness that we've been feeling in our face, in our guts, in our fingertips. The whole digestive issue was a whole other topic. And I just want to kind of illuminate the fact that it is 100% okay and 100% natural at this particular time to be dabbling in the darkness where fears and insecurities need to come up. Why? Because we're in a transformative state. We have to allow them to rise to the surface in order for us to accept them and acknowledge them. So as we move out of October, of course, we get a little bit of Scorpio energy to wrap up the life lessons in October. And then we move into November, bringing a brand new chapter, brand new life lessons, brand new energies. Like I said, we have various portals. We're moving into eclipse season. The true nodes are about to switch their axis towards the end of this year. And we're getting a taste in November of what the Taurus and Scorpio axis is going to be for us for the next year and a half. It is going to be a partial lunar eclipse, but that still brings a lot of magic. So definitely stay with me, stay in tune, stay up to date, put those notifications on so that you are going to get buzzed when I put a new video out there, because November 1st, there's a lot of information coming to you. So this week, what can we expect for Ascension symptoms? Well, first of all, let me just say that if, like I said, everybody should be tracking space weather. Everybody should be tracking the Schumann Resonance. If you are not doing that, then you have to understand that when these huge influx of energies come in, you're going to be, shooting in the dark. You're going to be feeling crazy. You're going to be feeling like you're coming down with a cold, with a flu. You're going to be not being able to have enough energy to do what it is that you want. And you're going to be feeling a little bit cray-cray, a little bit worried. Of course, we're in the season where fears get a little bit out of control, and you might have yourself on Google, researching all your signs and symptoms and finding out that you only have 4 hours to live. Now, I know that's being dramatic, but it's 100% the type of situations that can unfold when you don't understand about the energies coming in. And what we know from taking place over just this past week is that all the solar flares are set to land here Saturday into Sunday, compounding with the portal that opens up for Halloween, for our ancestors coming through, for the veil thinning, for the Day of the Dead. Then we move into November. We have the 111 portal. Then we're building towards the new moon. Then we're building towards Venus and Mercury making a shift. Then we're building towards the 1111 portal, and it's just going to continue the ebb and flow of transformation, high highs, low lows, and everything in between, until we navigate through these last chapters of 2021. We have to remember that 2021 has been designed in order for us to have a huge adjustment. And that adjustment comes through pressurized situations backing us in a corner so that we honor ourselves, we speak our truth, we honor our heart space, we align more authentically to what it is that our heart and soul is asking of us, where new missions, new life lessons emerge, new soul contracts emerge in order for us to pursue them and make this very uncomfortable adjustment. So we have a lot going on this week, and the Ascension symptoms are going to increasingly become a little bit more intense, become a little bit more overwhelming. So I spoke about how, Scorpio season highlights the fears and the darkness. The Scorpio season is when we have 1 foot in the spiritual realm, 1 foot in this 3D realm, and both of them highlight the darker energies, especially in this 3D realm, so that they can come up, we can accept them, we can integrate them, we can make them into something powerful, something lighter to work with. That is what alchemy is all about. We are our own magicians here in this realm. We have way more power than many of us are consciously aware of. And this is what Scorpio season was meant to do. It's meant to heal, it's meant to transform, it's meant to break us down so that we can kind of emerge from the pile of ash, just like that beautiful phoenix that we talked about. And because Scorpio season Scorpio itself is the only one that is represented by 3 different animal totems and symbolic totems, we have 3 different stages to go through. So this week, I feel like the darkness, the fear, the confusion is going to be intense. Mostly because it's supposed to be. We have all of this information coming in, really kind of conflicting with our intuition. Our physical realms right now are merely an illusion to create chaos so that we stop looking outside of ourselves for validation. We start looking within for the answers that have already been written in our DNA. This whole pandemic has been designed to create chaos, has been, an illusion, a veil, if you will, that needs to be absolutely destroyed and lifted in order for people to align with their true selves. So the fear is necessary. The confusion is necessary. Those dark thoughts, those dark feelings, all of that is 100% necessary in order for us to align with something higher. The dream states that we've been having, although if you compare it to even about a month ago, the dream state is actually leveled out a little bit. The nightmares aren't as bad. Now we're having like prophetic dreams. We're getting hints, we're getting clues, we're getting kind of, new conversations coming through from our dream state, from our ancestors, from our higher selves. Our intuition is very strong in the day, but let me tell you, our connection to the astral realm and our sleep state is very intense right now, creating some very uncomfortable dream material, stuff that stays with us throughout our waking day, stuff that literally changes our perspective moving through our waking day. We're kind of doing a lot more healing, a lot more psychological psyche healing within our dream state now than ever. And it's a perfect opportunity to do that because that's what Scorpio season is all about. Now, many of us have been hearing voices, sounds, sirens, bells, alarms, high-pitched frequencies. That is, again, otherworldly. But again, we are moving to a point in time, the 31st of October, where the veils between dimensions are as thin as it's going to get. We have to pay attention to the sensory shifts that are going on in our physical bodies because our physical bodies are morphing, they're transforming. Our energetic and light bodies are rapidly ascending through vibration and frequency, and this has a huge effect on our senses. So the voices, these sounds can be very frightening, but when you understand that this is coming through from another world in order to provide us with safety and security and comfort and guidance, like, your ancestors are not there to harm you. Your ancestors are not there to scare you. And if you have strong enough spiritual boundaries, you shouldn't be worried about anything other than the kind of energies that are here to help. The only time that psychic attacks and demons and all of these, lower vibrational frequencies coming through that scares people, that only happens when you have weak ass boundaries and you actually think that something outside of yourself has more power than you do. Right? It's a tough love life lesson when you enter into the spiritual realm to realize that you can only be attacked if you feel that you aren't strong enough to not be attacked. Okay. And we've all gone through it in our spiritual awakening where we feel like there are other, negative energies out there trying to harm us, trying to attack us. We are in a spiritual war. That is 100% natural. But let me tell you, when you are standing in your strength and you trust the backing of your ancestors, you trust the backing of your angels, your guardians, your energy tribe, there's nothing to fear. You shouldn't even dabble in the fear of what is out there trying to get at you, because nothing can get at you when you are protected, when you are 100% encased in white light of protection coming from all dimensions, as above, so below. So please, if you find yourself in a state where you're constantly worrying about, these psychic attacks and these energy vampires, take a good look at your boundaries, because that's a you problem, not a them problem. And it's something that we constantly have to work on in order to cleanse ourselves, cut cords, have the right spiritual practices in order to cleanse our energies. And there's no better time to jump into a new spiritual practice than Scorpio season. So don't let the voices scare you. Let them guide you. Also, don't be frightened by the flashes of light, by the orbs, by the figures that you may see off in your peripherals. Again, I know it can be frightening going through this upgrade in your energetic body where these new abilities are coming forth. Even those of us that have had these abilities for a while, they morph into something higher. We're always leveling up. We're always having new experiences, and new experiences can totally throw you off your game, but it's not meant to frighten you. It's not meant to scare you at all. It's something that you have to have a spiritual understanding about, because your ego is what reacts to these experiences from fear, from questioning, from, just thinking that you're absolutely batshit crazy. But the ego is what confuses things. When you actually push the ego aside and listen to your intuition, you're going to know that this is just an overlap of dimensions, and that these sounds and these visuals and these flashes of lights and these voices are coming from a place of love and nurturing from your ancestors. Let me just remind you, you carry a fraction of your ancestors' DNA and blood in you. You are them, they are you. That's why the connection comes through. That's why the connection is possible. And it's up to you to strengthen that connection and refine that connection so that you can allow the spirit realm to actually guide you. So with that being said, there's a lot of energy coming through, right? The solar winds, the solar flares, all of that is one thing from space weather. The electromagnetic frequencies coming in, the shifts coming in, the light codes coming in, of course, is going to have a huge impact on our crown. We've been experiencing these ups and downs, these, typical ascension symptoms. And let me remind you, the Ascension Flu is a real thing. It does feel like you're coming down with a flu. It does feel like you're, catching a cold or a flu or a stomach ache or whatever in your physical body. The only thing that your physical body and your logical, egoic mind can piece together is like, oh, damn, well, maybe I'm getting sick. The Ascension Flu is a real thing. Just think of the flu. Think of being hungover after a wild night of partying. Think of what it's like to have an actual flu. That is what this whole ascension process, those are the normal common symptoms that I don't want to have to repeat every week because it seems a little bit monotonous. But those are standard. So like cold chills and exhaustion and headaches and feeling like you're coming down with something, that is normal, Joe, mainstream, let's not talk about it every week type of symptoms. The ones that I tend to want to focus on are the weird ones or the ones that are shifting. So many times, if we think back a couple of months ago, we would have had some very dominant ascension symptoms. Those kind of go away, new ones come up, and then they will come back again because we spiral through life lessons. So with the increasing intensity building with all of the events, all of the portals, the new moon, all of these shifts, we have to expect there to be a lot of pressure coming in from the cosmos, from the crown. So when we talk about crown pressure and crown activations, we talk about head pressure, we talk about headaches, we talk about pulsating and throbbing. We also talk about dizziness and spaciness, right? It's a pressurized system. If you were to think about the barometric pressure that builds when we're about to have a storm or a rainstorm and how that affects you and how that affects animals, we get a little bit wonky because we can feel that particular energy pressure in our bodies. And this week, we're definitely going to be feeling it coming in from the crown. We have to understand that Scorpio season likes to unify. So what does that mean? Well, we have to unify as above to what is below. And what we find is that the energy comes in from the cosmos and the energy is coming in from the earth. What is in the middle? Our heart chakras. What is our heart? Well, our heart is our life force. It is our electrical system. It needs to be beating. And many of us have been experiencing a lot of heart activations. Now, I had a couple of people ask me if like boob or breast pain was a heart activation. 100%, it absolutely is. We have to build up pressure. We have to build up intensities in order for us to realize where the energy is bottling up inside of us. And yes, it's uncomfortable. And yes, it can be scary. And yes, it is going to release itself when the pressure builds to a breaking point, when there's a shift in our mentality, our emotions, our spirituality, when there is an aha moment, when we shift our perspective. All of these little things have the ability to shift the energy channels that are within our body. So yes, if you're having weird boob sensations like pain in your boobs or itchy boobs, I'm talking, female, male, doesn't even matter at this point. That is all a heart activation. And there's going to be a lot more pressure in the chest, a lot more heart activations, especially this week, later on in the week, when Venus, who rules over our hearts, is going to be making that shift out of that Sagittarian energy to the Capricorn energy. That's how we can map out what we can expect from the energies, is paying attention to these planetary bodies and what they represent and what they rule over in our physical forms. So yes, There's going to be, rapid heartbeats. There's going to be maybe skipping a beat. That's just looking at the heart. Maybe there's grief. Maybe there's depression. Those are the emotions that go on with the heart activations. Again, we're supposed to be dabbling in the darkness right now in order for us to find the light. That is what Scorpio season is about. So many of us that jumped into Scorpio season with, tears, with emotions, with like mental breakdowns, good for you. Get it out of the way. We have to have that breakdown before we can have the breakthrough. And if you're coming in at the beginning of this very deep, intense, transformative season with all of these releasing points, such as tears, such as screaming, such as arguments, such as depression, all of these lower vibrational emotions and thoughts, well, good. You're getting the worst part of it over with so that you can spend the rest of Scorpio season building to a breakthrough point. That's exactly what we're all destined to do. So with the heart activations, with the head activations, what do we find in the middle? If you put your hand on your head and you put your other hand on your heart and you move them closer together, what do you find? You find your throat chakra, you find your mouth. And many of us have been exercising our vocal cords and speaking our truth. Many of us have had a lot of tension, a lot of rigidity, a lot of, grinding happening in the jaw, happening in the teeth because we were biting our tongues. Many of us are loosening our jaws. We're really exercising our right to speak up, to speak out, to speak our truth. We are putting people in their place. We are drawing lines in the sand. And guess what? We have Mercury to thank for that. Mercury, who is now direct and who will be out of the shadow period on the 2nd, that means he's full up to speed. That means he's gaining clarity. That means he's gaining confidence. He's ready to speak out. He's ready to communicate with more clarity and confidence than we have been speaking. Many of us just opening our mouths and having verbal vomit just fall right out. Now we're going to be a little bit more strategic. And by the time Mercury actually gets full up to speed on the 2nd, he only has a couple days left in Libra before diving into Scorpio. Now, this is a big deal because, first of all, Mercury being in Libra wants to speak fairly, wants to kind of collaborate, wants everybody to be happy-go-lucky. That game is over once Mercury dives into Scorpio. That's when we start asking the hard questions of ourselves, of other people. That's when we become the detectives. That's when we start probing for meaning, for truth, for purpose. We want to know why life isn't fair. While we're in Libran energy, we like to think, there's a plan, life is fair, everything balances out, karma will always balance out. Yeah, karma will, but maybe not in this lifetime. Many of us walk through this lifetime saying, you know what, my karma is going to shift. I've had so many bad experiences. Karma is going to shift for me. I'm going to be all right. And guess what? Many of us will see our death in this lifetime without having the scales of karma actually be rebalanced in this lifetime. That's why reincarnation happens, so that we can play out our karma from this lifetime in the next lifetime. Many of us will not see retribution or fairness from some of the hardships in which we've had to suffer in this particular lifetime until we get into the next lifetime. And guess what? That isn't fair. And guess what Scorpio season does? It teaches us that life isn't fair. What does Scorpio season also teach us? That life shouldn't be fair. Why? Because if life was fair, we wouldn't have to reincarnate. We wouldn't have to continue this karmic battle. We wouldn't have to continue the evolvement of coming to this earth school and dealing with this messy ass emotions and then try to return to a state of unconditional love that, of course, that's where we originate from in the beginning. So, there is a method to the madness, but Scorpio season, especially Mercury moving into Scorpio, is going to kind of help us dig for the silver linings, for the reasons of why life isn't fair, why life shouldn't be fair, and why life will eventually be fair later on in our lineage, later on in our lifetimes. So that throat chakra is going to be on point Scorpio season is very deliberate. It's very private. We want to retreat. We want to hold back information, but you best believe that we are going to dive to the depths of the darkness of picking apart other people and asking the right questions so that we are fully informed on where other people stand, yet we are not as willing to divulge that much information about our current standing, our current situation, our current thoughts and feelings. So we are going to have a little bit of an activation happen here in the throat. That is going to continue, but it's going to come from a little bit more of a inquisitive mind, I guess you could say, and a little bit of a detective mindset as well, because we really do have to get to the bottom of a couple of things. So here's the thing, we're gaining clarity. We likely won't get a huge amount of action until after the new moon. Again, as we approach a new moon, things are supposed to be dark. There's no moon in the sky. It's a dark moon. We're supposed to sit in the darkness, the depths of our darkness, in order to figure out what it is we don't want to experience anymore. Why? So that we can figure out what it is we do want to experience. And when the moon becomes visible in the sky after the new moon, that is when we can start taking action. But right now is not a time for action. It's a time for reflection. It's a time for rest. It's time for rejuvenation, a time to surrender and let go to all the things that have not been working out for us, all the things that make us sad, make us disappointed. We have to sit at the bottom of the barrel before we can appreciate what lays ahead in this beautiful, twisty, turny path of ours once we get out of the darkness of our own shadow work. That is what this whole season is all about. So you best believe that with shadow work, we have a lot of issues in our lower back, in our root chakra, in our tailbones, in our butts, in our sciatic nerves, because that is where Pluto rules. And of course, Pluto rules over Scorpio season. Shadow work, all of our survival techniques and tactics get stored in our root chakra. Our root chakra keeps us alive. That is our survival needs. And many of us are still in survival. Many of us are so focused on ascending, we haven't even accomplished what grounding is. We haven't even let go of our survival memories, our survival flashes, energies, and emotions. And it's all just trapped there in our lower backs, in our tailbones, in our butts. And, you know, it doesn't feel good. And especially being kind of heavy and weighted, which definitely you can put on the list to feel this week, especially with that new moon, like, you know, having that lunar hangover is a real thing. It absolutely exhausts us to go through these particular lunar phases and all of these other very intense astro events, bringing in all of these, you know, energies that we're trying to get used to. And you best believe it's going to knock the snot right out of you, figuratively and literally. And talking about snot, I know we talked about it last week, like there was this phlegm, there was this discharge. It wasn't even really snot. It was just this weird liquid coming out of our heads. And that was because, of course, we're opening our third eye and we're having some pressure in our crown. But that phlegm is going to continue to want to come out through coughing, through clearing our throat, through sneezing, through our eyes watering, through the pressure building in our heads, our sinus cavities, all of that fun stuff, because we have to cleanse the body. That is what Scorpio season is here to do, is to purge through surrendering, through letting go, get it out, clean the slate so that we can start again. So that phlegm, that snot is definitely going to continue. Again, clearing your throat, putting yourself in steam baths, in saunas if you have the ability to, using salt water gargles in the mornings, going to help the process. It's up to us to provide our physical bodies with a way to get through these energetic shifts and these ascension symptoms with as much ease and grace as possible. So there are things that you can do to better the situation, but it doesn't mean that you're going to be able to, you know, cross these symptoms off the list totally. The whole point is that we need to be realigned, mind, body, and soul, before Scorpio season is over. But of course, there's some guck in the way. There's some sludge in the way, especially in our heads, but in our digestive systems as well. Now, last week, of course, we had Scorpio season begin. We had almost 2.5 full days of the moon being in Cancer, in her place of power, definitely turned on the feels, definitely turned up the, let's call it the family drama. And it definitely turned up the discomfort that many of us have felt in our stomachs, in our digestive systems, in our bowels. Now, let me tell you, Scorpio season has a tendency to either be backed up and constipated or floodgates wide open, can't even leave the pot. And I don't mean to be disgusting there, but here's the thing. Scorpio season is a fixed sign. It means that we have a hard time letting go, hard time surrendering. When all that toxic buildup is in our systems, we have a hard time letting go of that. Our physical body mimics the energetic patterns that we're currently going through. And if we're stuck up on something emotionally or mentally, we're going to manifest the physical manifestations of that in our physical forms. And that can come through in not being so willing to get rid of the toxic buildup in our bodies. Again, yes, with the snot coming out of our heads and the phlegm coming out of our chests, but mostly these digestive system issues can really be a super bother. So our guts are bubbling. We got the bubble guts. We are either starving to death or we're not hungry at all. Many people continue to ask, why am I eating so much food and I can't, seem to feel full? That is the physical body's way of grounding. When our energetic bodies are ascending and reaching new vibrations and new frequencies, our physical bodies don't know what to do with that. So we tend to want to kind of fill the void with food to kind of, weight us down, connect us with something tangible here in this physical realm. And then what happens? We get backed up because that food is not being digested properly because we're all up in our emotional feels psychologically, in our awareness and not in our awareness. And our physical bodies, again, tend to hold on to that toxic sludge that we need to get out of our systems in order to be cleansed, in order to be realigned. So don't be surprised if you have, the emotional outbursts. That's good. That means that something is shifting in your heart chakra in order for that release to happen. Tears are a release. Screaming is a release. Phlegm is a release. Words are a release. Puking, as uncomfortable and disgusting as that is a release. Bathroom trips are a release. It's all the way to purge out all of the things that are just in our bodies that shouldn't be. And with that comes a total shift, not only in our physical forms, not only in our emotional forms, but in our thoughts. Because Mercury, and of course, the light codes coming in from the portals, and of course, the new moon, all of these factors are creating a buzz, if you will. There's new information, new details, new truth emerging that's totally going to mess up our heads, really put us in a state of confusion. And let me remind you, confusion is 100% natural and necessary. Just as we are preparing to shift and make a huge transformation and adjustment, what comes before that? Total and utter confusion. We have to be disrupted. We have to be outside of our comfort zones in order to see where it is that we need the greatest change. And unfortunately, that confusion is in the mental plane, again, creating spaciness, dizziness, head pressure, all kinds of weird thoughts, all kinds of dark thoughts, all kinds of different perspective changes. And we're definitely going to feel the purge in our heart space, in our head space, in our throat chakras, in our digestive system. It's all connected. So with that being said, and I know we did talk about the stomach issues and the digestion, I just want to talk about the fact that many of us have still not made the connection from our gut to our brain. The relationship is very strong because, of course, there's just as much, if not more, nerves in our gut as there is in the rest of our body. And you can tell the state of your gut biome by some of the symptoms that are taking place in your physical form. A lot of that, we talked about acid reflux. That again is a digestive issue that would let you know the pH imbalance in your body that you need to correct in your diet. We talked about the want, need, and desire to either eat everything or eat nothing. And again, this is another attempt for our physical body to align to a diet, to food that is going to help us heal instead of hold us back and cause more destruction in our guts. Here's the thing though, itchiness is at an all-time high. Now we're talking itchiness everywhere. Many of us are having just overall skin issues, rashes, invisible rashes, itchiness. Is it allergies? What is it? Well, let me tell you. It is the energy that has been trapped inside of our bodies, inside of our organs, rising to the surface. When you start to experience change in your skin, it means that there are energies, there are toxins that are making their way to the surface to be fixed, to be resolved, to be nurtured, to be treated. Our skin is the largest organ that we have. And by the time that there is an issue with your skin, it means that your innards, your organs, have been under a huge amount of pressure and suffering for far too long. And this is the attempt to bring it full circle to your attention by itchiness. And we have to understand that these are toxins that need to get out. So how do we fix it? Well, we can do salt baths and we can do dry brushing, because of course dry brushing gets rid of the dead skin that are clogging up the pores so that we can't take in oxygen. And of course we need oxygen, the prime amount of oxygen coming into our bodies so that, our circulation is working well and we can continue to push these toxins, push these energy blockages out of our innards to the surface where we can do something with it. But the itchiness is also around our lips. It's in our eyes, our eyelids, that very soft mucosa, that, very tender and sensitive skin that we have in some very private places, that becomes irritated, that becomes inflamed. The lip issue, it feels my lips are tingling and burning, and visually, there's nothing wrong with them. They're not cracked. They're not really that dry. I'm somebody that keeps them all lubed up, with all kinds of lipstick and lip chap and all those, things to do, and they still burn, they still tingle. And even my eyes. So, I'm going to say a couple weeks ago, maybe a month now, we all had those dry eyes, that flakiness, that rash, if you will, around your eyes. I'm not saying that it's coming back full force, but there is irritation on your eyes this week because guess what? Our eyes are wide open to a perspective that we are not really sure how to process as of yet. And when we have a hard time seeing things change, seeing things for their true, pure form in life, we're going to have physical ailments affect our eyes. Actually, our senses alone, because our intuition is so high, because we're hypersensitive at this particular season, all of our inputs, let's say, so we're bringing information in through our eyes, we're bringing information in through our nose, our ears, our mouth, our fingers, it's a sensory type of system here. We're having a hard time accepting our realities right now, which means that we're going to have these little cluster Fs, if you will, of symptoms arise around these particular areas in our body. And the itchiness, although it's as irritating as F, is actually a good sign because the last thing that happens to a scab before it's actually healed is it gets itchy. Think of a scab, right? You can't scratch it. You want to scratch it. You want to rip it all the way off, but you can't because it's in its process of healing. And the last thing that happens when your skin is trying to pull those healthy cells together and scab over in order to get rid of the scab altogether, it gets super itchy. So that's why we're having these itchy patches kind of arise on our body. It could be a full body itch, if you will. We have to kind of calm that. We can do that with salt baths. Again, dry brushing, nice peppermint creams, nice lotions. You just have to understand that we are responsible for nurturing our physical forms through these energetic shifts. So with the eyes, yes, we might have dry patches. Yes, we might see the flakiness come back. It does feel like we have like grit in our eyes. And it's not just, having dry eyes, like literally it feels like you have an eyelash stuck in there or you got a piece of sand stuck in there. It just feels awful. It feels gritty. It feels uncomfortable. And again, this comes back to the fact that we are seeing the overlap of dimensions. We're seeing the overlap of truth. We are seeing the overlap of realities emerge right now, and it doesn't feel so good. We don't like what we're seeing. You know, sometimes gaining clarity is necessary, but it's not the kind of happy-go-lucky clarity that we were hoping for. Sometimes it's a dark truth. Sometimes it's a negative perspective. Sometimes we have to be humbled as F in order for us to realize that the direction that we were pursuing is the wrong direction for us. Sometimes we need to be shocked and awed in all the wrong ways in order for us to gain a better, bigger, broader perspective, to gain that kind of clarity. And of course, we have a hard time accepting that. And we're going to feel that residual effect in our eyeballs. So one thing I also want to talk about is the fact that our power, so our life force, our power, our weaknesses, our vulnerabilities, our physical energy, it's ebbing and flowing all through Scorpio season. Like I had mentioned last week, you know, Scorpio season being a water signs can take many forms. It can be calm, cool, and collected. It can be choppy as hell. It can be frozen into an ice cube. It can evaporate into a gas. And we're all over the place with our physical forms right now and our energy, emotionally, mentally, and spiritually. Our power, our physical life force, again, goes from some high highs to some low lows. But let me tell you, the power that we have to realize that we have right now is in our weaknesses, is in our exhaustion, is in our vulnerabilities. Many of us, you know, think that to have weakness, to have these vulnerabilities, to be sad, to be depressed is wrong. Well, let me tell you, it's not wrong. It's part of the process. So many people go to such great lengths to avoid all of these darker parts of life. This is what Scorpio season is built for. You have to understand that even at your weakest point, where you're a mess, where you're a blubbering mess, where you feel broken, that is where the power lies. We cannot avoid this. We can't continue to run from it. Nobody should be walking around saying, oh my God, I'm so depressed. There's something wrong with me. No. If you didn't experience sadness and depression, you wouldn't know how grateful you should be for the days in which you are happy and excited. Okay? Life is about duality. Life is about polarity. You can only appreciate the good once you've sat in the bad. You can only appreciate pain-free when you've experienced all the pain in the world. You can only experience true love when your heart has been broken. The good comes with the bad. You would not be able to appreciate all the good things in the life if you did not have a bad point of reference to compare it to. So please stop running from yourself. Please stop running from your weaknesses and your sadness and your depression and your grief. It is your best friend. You have to learn to befriend it. Stop being at odds with yourself. Stop being at odds with your body. Stop being at odds with your mind. Accept it. Wake up and say, depression, my old friend, what are we going to sit and ponder today? Because I'm going to tell you, some of the most amazing artists in the world were manic depressives. Okay? Beautiful, beautiful things come out of the most broken of people. And that's what Scorpio season is all about, is to highlight the power that lies within the pain. The light that lives only because the darkness exists. And to sit in these moments where you would rather be happy and go lucky and just elated sitting on a beach somewheres, where you're sitting in these dark ass, cold, damp moments, feeling isolated and alone, and recognize that there's a lesson here, that there's a silver lining here, that there's a whole lot of power here. You just got to sit with it long enough to figure out how to use it in your everyday life as an inspiration, as a motivation, as a catalyst to constantly want to be better. Our whole mission is to enjoy the journey between the 2 points of extremes that we are destined to experience so that we can be grateful for both experiences, both perspectives, both points of view. So you may have high highs, you're going to have a lot of low lows, but I want you to appreciate them in all of their glory. They're here to teach us some very deep, dark lessons that will provide us with a shining light for years to come. So stop running from it. Stop thinking you're weak. Stop thinking that sadness is something that you should never experience. Stop thinking that you have to numb yourself so that you're not depressed. Stop trying to suppress these negative forces. Stop creating a divide within yourself. Sit with it, befriend it, use it to your advantage. It is a beautiful thing. And many of us have to learn to work in the darkness before we can ever appreciate standing in the light. So we talked about the itchiness. I want to talk about tingling for a second because I feel like tingling is a totally different sensation. Pins and needles tingling, but more so feeling the electricity come and go throughout your body. So, anytime that you remember those things. Now, I'm an 80s girl, okay? So back in the day, we had those like light bulb type of things where you could put your fingers on it and the electricity, came from that inner ball and touched wherever your finger was and followed your finger around. Now, I'm not saying that there were huge amounts of electricity being felt at those times, but you can definitely feel when you're connecting to an electricity form that is pulsating and running throughout your body. These are the kinds of tingles that I want to talk about. We had been experiencing them one side over the other in Libra season. This season, we're going to be feeling them unify. So we might feel it's starting, on the left side of our body, but at the end of our little light show here, we're going to be feeling it all over. This, again, in Scorpio season, with all of these divinely scripted astro events, are definitely trying to help us clear the pathways of the energetic channels within our bodies. If you have not dabbled in Chinese medicine, if you don't know anything about, meridians, I would definitely recommend that you take a little bit of a dive in that rabbit hole, because this is very real. Our bodies are information highways of electricity. And this is why we're bringing new vibrations in from our feet, from Mother Earth, as she raises vibrations and frequencies. This is why we're bringing electromagnetic frequencies and light codes in from the universe, coming in through our crown. And we're feeling these electric pulses throughout our bodies, trying to break up the toxic and fragmented energies that are blocking these, information highways in our bodies. And this week, I really feel that you're going to be feeling this electricity tingle a lot more, yes, in your limbs, but also like in your face. We have to understand the veil is very thin. We're walking through ghosts every day. I hate to traumatize you, but we're walking through, spiritual beings and other realms that are overlapping our realms every single day. And you can tell that by temperature fluctuation and electricity. So I want you to pay attention this week, especially with all of these, very intense astro events taking place. I want you to pay attention to the sensations that are taking place in your physical body, from tingling, from electricity, from cold spots, hot spots, because that is an indicator where you're walking through another energetic force that is not visible to the naked eye here in this physical realm. I also want to talk about, so we talked about like the puffiness happening in our fingers. There's also going to be a little bit of a shift in our nails and nail-related, finger-related accidents, if you will. Hangnails, maybe. Broken nails, yep, small emergency. But let me just tell you, this is about realizing that we're connecting physically, energetically, spiritually, emotionally in a different way with our environment. And sometimes we need to have things happen to us. Maybe you sprained a finger, maybe you jam it in a door, maybe you jam it somewheres, all kinds of finger accidents, because it brings attention to our fingers. When you have a hangnail, it doesn't feel like it should be as traumatic as it is, but it feels that way. It is loud and angry and it feels awful. And you become hypersensitive. Suddenly, everything that you normally did in your day becomes more of a conscious thought and an awareness because your damn finger hurts, right? So this week, it's about understanding that we are recalibrating our sensory inputs. Again, fingers through touch, our eyeballs through sight, our nose through smell, our mouth through taste, our ears through sound. All of this is being hyperstimulated because we're in a readjustment period, preparing to realign in a different way that will likely come with the 11-11 portal as we move throughout Scorpio season, of course. And by the end of Scorpio season, we are going to be realigned 100% mind, body, soul, and then environment. So pay attention to small little accidents, to hangnails, to broken fingernails, to jamming your fingers in doors, because again, these are all, redirectory tools from the universe in order for us to slow down, pay attention to what it is that we're doing, being consciously aware of every single ounce of energy and movement physically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, energetically. We have to become more grounded, more aware in our physical bodies, because we're going through a readjustment period, and we have to pay attention to how the senses are actually changing. And again, that is coming through touch in this physical realm this week, because there's so much going on in the metaphysical realm, the energetic realm. We have to have something that brings us back into this physical reality, and it's likely going to be affecting our hands, affecting our fingers. So I think I ranted for long enough here today. I want to extend my thanks once again for every single one of you joining me here in the live chat, catching me on the replay. Drop a comment below. What ascension symptom has been the biggest pain in the butt for you? What is the one that makes you the most fearful? What is the one that doesn't make sense to you? What is on your mind? What can I help you out about? Again, I want to keep this conversation going. I want to keep this community, collectively growing and expanding, helping one another. And we do that by sharing our experiences. There is no dumb question. There is no stupid question. There are so many things going on. We are all at different points in the journey. It is up to us to share our experiences, to collaborate, to cooperate, to compromise, to meet everyone where it is that we're all currently at, and recognize that we're not alone with this. We are unified. We are together. We are not alone. And I want to thank you so much once again for tuning in to this week's energy forecast to the Ascension symptoms, and for your ongoing, continued love and support. You guys are amazing. I cannot even come up with the words to describe the kind of feels that you guys give me each and every single day. So much love to you. Thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you have a beautiful week, and I'll talk to you soon.